All right, Shabbat Shalom. I was trying to get the folks at the door to come in and sit down. We welcome everybody for this precious opportunity that we have to learn with Leah today. I'm not going to say a lot about her backgrounds because I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself through the text and through this conversation. But I will just say that Leah is actually native to Los Angeles, grew up not far from here, and is studying now at Hebrew College in Boston. And it is really a great joy to have you with us. And I heard it was really wonderful today with our kids. And thank you for leading Psuke this morning. And we're excited to get to know you more now as a teacher of Torah. So we welcome you and thank you for being here. Folks who are on the outside, there are a couple of seats that are still here, so you can feel free to come and join us for that. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Brous. Thank you, everyone, for having me. It's really so fun. It's so fun to be here. So, again, my name is Leah Carnow. Like Rabbi Brous said, I'm from LA. It's good to be home. I live in Boston, where I'm finishing up school at Hebrew College. And I wanted to start today with actually some singing, which I know we just did, but we're going to sing something else now. And that's very like Hebrew College of me. One of my friends joked a while ago that Hebrew College is normally 5 years on average for folks. He said Hebrew College could be 4 years if we didn't sing in class. But I know IKAR is a place where people like to sing, and I think that music is also part of the Torah that we carry. And we're going to talk today about we're going to learn some Torah thinking about remembering and thinking about forgetting. And part of why I wanted to bring that today was because I'm in this moment, which is a very humbling moment of soon to become a rabbi, and I'm reflecting on some of the Torah that I've learned over the past few years and realizing that I don't remember a lot of it. And that's part of the process. That's part of the process of learning. And so some of the texts that I'm going to bring today are actually texts that some of them I learned 6 years ago with my teacher, who I learned briefly with first semester, Alana Kirshan. If anyone has read her book, If All the Seas Were Ink, if Ben Gurin is in the room, he was in that class with me. And so we'll learn some of those texts that she introduced to me and some other things, and see how the texts speak to each other about this question for us of what are we supposed to remember? How do we remember? What is okay to forget? What are we not remembering when we learn Torah? So those are the questions we're holding. And with that, we're going to sing a song that is written by Rabbi Micah Shapiro. The words are Hashiveni ve'ashuva. So a little change from what we say when we put the Torah away. We normally say Hashivenu in the plural, ve'nashuva. So bring me back and I will come back. Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem, renew our days as of old, like the old days, like that paradox of how we can be new and old at the same time. And the amazing teacher, Baal Tefillah, musician Joey Weisenberg taught this year at the Hadar Rising Song Institute, and he talked about that pasuk, which originally comes from the end of Eicha, the book that we read on Tisha B'Av, that he sees it as this quest that we have to hold on to Torah. When we put the Torah away, we said it today, we said Torah it's a tree of life for all who hold on to it. And we say Kila Kachtov before that. It's a good thing that you've given to us, Natati. Kila Torati al tazovu. Don't let it go. Don't leave it. But every time we put the Torah away, in some ways we're leaving it, right? And so we stand in this in-between always of grasping and reaching and holding and also letting it go, and also of wanting to come back to it, to be renewed in some kind of old way. So we're going to learn this melody, and then we'll do some text learning together, and I'm excited to learn from you and for you to learn from each other. So it goes like this. Hashiveni ve'ashuva listen. Hashiveni ve'ashuva ve'ashuva. That's the first part. Let's just try that. Hashiveni ve'ashuva. Hashiveni ve'ashuva. Second part. Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. Try that. Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. Chadesh, 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 Yameinu kekedem. Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. Hashiveni, Hashiveni ve'ashuva. Hashiveni ve'ashuva. Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. Oh, Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. Oh, Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. So can I get some help passing out the source sheets from one or two folks in the front? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Awesome. So we're going to start with text that we heard this morning, which is text that is likely familiar to folks in the room. It's from the Ten Commandments. Again, thinking about the question of what does it mean to remember? What does it mean to remember? And I'll read the text out loud in English. Folks can follow along in the Hebrew if they want. We're in the first text on the first page. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekodsho. 6 days you shall do labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of your God Adonai. You shall not do any work, you, your son or daughter, your male or female slave, or your cattle, or the stranger who is within your settlements. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth and sea and all that is in them, and then rested on the seventh day. Therefore Adonai blessed the Sabbath day and sanctified it. So I know we started late. Is there someone who can give me a time check about when we should wrap up? I'm looking at your other grasp. It doesn't have to be you. Yeah, great. Okay. So before 2. Yeah, great. Wonderful. So I would love for us to just do a little turn and talk to each other. So we'll do some time together as a full group discussing. We'll do some small group connection. This is a chance for you to learn with me and from me, but it's also, I'm seeing it, this is a chance for you to learn from each other and with each other. You're always in community together. So that's the best part of this. This is opportunity for you. So find someone next to you, groups of 2 or 3, and just chat, just looking at this text. What does this instruction of remembering mean in this text? What does it mean to you? Let's do about 1 more minute together in these small groups. 1 more minute.
חדש, חדש, ימינו כקדם. חדש, חדש, ימינו כקדם. All right, let's come back together.
Any thoughts? Anyone wants to share with the whole room what came up for you? What are you thinking about? What do you think this text is telling us? I'm not going to be able to bring the microphone to everyone, so speak loud and I'll try to repeat.
Something that was striking me right away is that there's an express command to remember people in the household that are usually... Oh, thank you. What was striking was that there's an express commandment to remember people in the household and things in the household that are usually not remembered when considering piety and rest and study, which are not just the children, but the female children too, not just the slaves, but the female slaves too, and then also the other chattel, like animals, or even someone who is not of your religion, the stranger who may or may not be Jewish, and so we're expressly commanded to remember that they must too be entitled to that kind of rest.
Yes, thank you. Hannah, are you going to be my mic runner? Thank you. So how we remember not just our own experience, but that we're instructed to think about others and pay attention to others. Yes, thank you. And actually, if you could say your name so that I learn your name, and also maybe other people in the room will learn your name, at least for this moment, and then they can forget it and ask you later.
My name is Razel. Hi, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Well, one of the things I noticed was that, and we talked about, was that it doesn't say just observe the Sabbath day. It says remember the Sabbath day. And to me that had significance in that, you could get a command from God and follow that, but also what does it mean to remember the Sabbath day, thinking in two ways. One is it, and then it's followed by all the other days. It's remember that God created everything here. Keep remembering that. That's so important to hold in your heart. And what was the other thing? I'm sorry, forgetting that. I'm sorry. I forgot the second part of that.
All good.
Do you remember? Okay, I'll end there.
Beautiful, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there's a consciousness of what God created. Coming around over here.
Hi, welcome. My name is Eric Green. Thanks very much for being with us. What stood out for me the most, and frankly it always stands out for me the most with this, is the assumption that slavery is something that's going to be a regular part of the community. So much so that there has to be like this specific regulation about let your slave have a Sabbath. And it always strikes me as strange that a newly enslaved people aren't just clearly given the commandment and don't enslave. Don't do unto others what was just done unto you. When we're told not to eat this kind of food or wear this kind of fabric with that, it seems like a real failure of imagination. And so I always struggle with the fact that this people that have just been enslaved is supposed to have slavery as part of its normal practice, and that seems to be okay from the viewpoint of the text. And when there's so many other teachings in the Torah about remember the stranger, be kind to the stranger because you were a stranger, the idea of make sure your slave has the day off, but don't stop slavery, that always rankles.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that tension for us. I see you in the front.
Hi. We talked a little bit about the sort of command to remember as a notion of consciousness, acknowledging sort of the difference between the Sabbath and the rest of the week. But the idea of remembering Shabbat in advance, keeping the consciousness of it as a differentiation, and as each part of the week comments on the other. Remember the work on the day of rest and vice versa. There's something about being kind of grateful for the other, sort of earning the other, as you do one or the other. So thinking more about memory, and this command to remember is perhaps a command to have a consciousness.
Beautiful, thank you. So Maisel had suggested this was a consciousness about the world that God created, and I didn't catch your name. Jamie, and Jamie is saying there's a consciousness of the way we orient our days and of constantly remembering that we're in days of work moving to a day of rest and onward. You get that? Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Heather and with Rochelle and Jerry. Following on what Jamie was saying, we're talking about the idea of remember. You remember something that happened before, but it hadn't happened yet. And what had happened that's talked about later, that in 6 days God made heaven and earth and sea, that is something that happened before, but none of us were there to remember that. So remembering or zachor, and I'm not familiar enough with Hebrew to know what the etymology is of the word or how it's used. If there's a different kind of remembering but to be conscious of something and hold it with you and hold the memory of something that already happened, and what it means that if we're being commanded to hold the memory of something that happened, but were we there or not?
Fascinating. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And let's take maybe one or two more, and then we'll move on to the next text. Yes. Hannah's getting those steps in.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Florine. I teach memoir writing. Memory is always with us. It's not remembered. It's how we retrieve the memory, how we might transform it or see it differently. But in this case, I see it as soul talk, that memory is integrated into our soul, and it's always there. We have to access it.
So beautiful. So memory is deep in our soul. It's our souls talking to us that we access. Beautiful. I think, it's like, no, I can't choose everyone. Hannah, choose for me. Get mad at Hannah later.
Hi. We discussed how remembrance in our tradition is very much an action verb, that we have so many rituals around our memories that it puts it into action, and it's a manifestation of the memory. At the same time, I think we recognize that sometimes it can be a burden carrying those memories with us into the future with every step that we take. So, did you want to say anything?
Thank you for adding that. Yeah, that idea of memory as action, memory as doing is actually, the rabbis draw the connection of Zachor becomes our practice of Kiddush. They say, that's why we have to do Kiddush. We have to make Kiddush over wine, because God said Zachor at Shabbat. So that starts Shabbat. It's a physical thing that we do, and when we do it, we actually invoke these memories that are part of Shabbat. We invoke the memory of creation. We invoke the memory of our escape from Egypt, of our Exodus. So thank you for bringing that in, memory as action. We're going to go to the next text. And maybe actually we'll read two texts together so that we can hold them both and compare them. So these texts are switching gears a little bit. These are texts that are from Midrashic collections. The first one is from Midrash on Kohelet. Second text is Midrash on Shir HaShirim, on Song of Songs. But they're both explicating verses about wisdom, or the Song of Songs verses, not necessarily on a obvious level about wisdom, but the Midrash takes it to be so. So the Kohelet Rabbah text says, Rabbi Abahu said, "This is the punishment of Torah, that a person studies Torah and forgets it." The rabbis there of Bavel, in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, from here, Israel, and Rabbi Tovia would say in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, "It is for their own good that a person studies Torah and forgets. Because if a person were to study Torah and never forget it, one would engage in Torah study 2 or 3 years and would return to engage in their work and never pay attention to it for the rest of their life. Rather, because a person studies Torah and forgets it, he does not desist or remove himself from words of Torah." So we have these ideas that are elsewhere. This could be like a full course. I don't know. There's so many texts about forgetting and remembering, and these are just a random smattering of the ones I felt like bringing today. But there are so many other texts that say when you learn Torah, you may not forget it. That's it. Learn it, forget it, bad. And this feels like it's bringing another angle. So I'm going to give us time to discuss it also. But I want us to have the second text so that we can hold them both and think about the images that are being evoked in each of these texts. So the second text from Shir Shirim is, I didn't put it on the page, but I wanted to bring a little bit of the context. So that the text that this Midrash is commenting on is from Proverbs. Wisdom is lofty to a fool. And then one rabbi is going to bring an image of a loaf of bread. Bread is Torah sometimes, right? Torah has all these different images: water, flour, light. So it's a loaf of bread suspended in air, and it's like too hard for the fool to get to, but the wise person says, it's okay, I'm just going to put like little by little, 2 things at a time, and I'll get up to the loaf of bread. And those 2 sticks are like 2 halachot, 2 pieces of law that a person can learn each and every day. And this is the second text in this series about how wisdom is lofty for a fool. Rabbi Levi said, this is analogous to a perforated basket whose owner hired workers to fill with water. We have a leaky basket and water. Just hold that. It could be a different vessel if you want. The fool says, what am I accomplishing? I fill it from here and it flows out from there. The wise person says, do I not collect my wage? Do I not collect a wage from my employer for each and every barrel? So too, the fool says, I study Torah and forget it. What am I accomplishing? The wise one says, does the Holy One, blessed be He, not give me reward for my effort? So I'd love us to go back into Chavruta, actually, because we have a little time. So holding both of these texts, what images speak to you? Which do you want to throw out the window and say no thanks? And what is it making you think about when it comes to forgetting and remembering with the act of learning Torah? We've now switched from Shabbat to Torah Begadol, Torah in all of its awesomeness. And what are these texts suggesting to us about the task of learning Torah? So a couple minutes together. If you want to come back because it's safe to be with the same person you were just with, great. If you want to switch it up, figure out how to do that and switch it up, and we'll come back together. Let's have one more minute together. We'll do one more minute. All right, let's make our way back together. Finish up that last thought. Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. Oh, Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. All right, let's do another little share back so we can have all our wisdom. Yes, excited hands over here. What came out of this conversation for you? What are you thinking about? What are you struggling with? What are you holding?
Hi, Leah. Thank you for being here. I'm Dana.
Hi, Dana. Nice to meet you.
We were talking about the first paragraph here, and what we came up with is that the insignificant things in life, kind of let those go. And the other thing, the important stuff that you learn, we learn something new every day. At least I do. And so we can build on what we learn each day. The important stuff, you remember those. So, and you become wiser. Let's say you study Torah in Sunday school when you were in high school. 20 or 30 years later, you go back and you look at the same text. You might interpret it differently.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Dana.
Hi, I'm Sean. And in our group, we were actually talking, in a way, we were talking about all three texts together. And Candace was talking about the question of sort of what's fixed, what changes and what's fixed as you do the work. And the Torah is fixed, or the work is fixed, but the people change or grow. And the other thing that struck me was in the first text, the very first, the Shemot text, where there's this relationship with God, and God of a particular name, right? And that's stressed in the text. Then in the next one, you have God's gone. It's Torah and it's the teacher. But in both, you're sort of honoring God, you're honoring the Torah and the teachers. And in the third, it's a boss and work, and not even that much an investment in the boss's expectations being fulfilled, as long as the worker does the labor and gets paid. Nobody's going back to the boss and saying, hey, your basket's leaky, maybe we should seal it up. And that those pieces connect with this notion of change and fixed, because it's about the relationship between us as people and what we're engaging with.
Thank you so much. Yeah, relationships within ourselves, our relationships with the text, and as you said, the Shir Hashirim text brings in this relationship with God, which is shown in a certain way in the text, obviously, but God is brought in a different way, that God is not present as much in the second text.
Hi, I'm Eric, and welcome.
Hi, Eric.
We were talking about the journey, not the destination, and how study is such a fundamental part of our tradition. And I was telling Rabbi Neil how every Shabbat, that most people, I think, in their daily life don't study, and we're commanded to. And for me, at least, on Shabbat, every week I read the Parsha, and I read the commentaries, and then next year I read the same Parsha and the same commentaries, and I've forgotten, and yet I do it year after year after year. And it's like a lovely part of the week for me.
It's beautiful, thank you. Yeah, I remember learning this as a small child, but there's a Agadah in Masechet Nida about the angel, who's the angel of conception, who like holds up a light for all babies as they're growing in the womb and teaches babies the entire Torah. And then maybe some folks in here know this. And then the angel like presses us on up right above our lip, which is why we come out with this indentation. And with that press, we forget all of Torah. And so then we're on this like lifelong journey to try to learn everything again in our lives. So that repetition that you brought in, tell me your name again, Eric? Yeah, Eric, that of coming back and doing the same commentary, the same text every week, every year is so beautiful. I think it's part of that impetus that we have. Hey, Dina.
Hi, I'm Dina. So I was thinking, what dum-dum is hiring somebody to pour water into a basket where it's just coming out? And then I thought, well, are there baskets that have holes in them for a reason? So like a watering pot for plants where it like kind of distills the water, and there's a purpose for that. And so if the Torah is the water and we're the basket, then when we learn Torah, it's coming in through us and it's going out into the soil and nourishing the rest of the world, and moves on through us, and then we learn more Torah and take it in, and it keeps going in that way.
I was going to say you're a plant, but you're not. That's so beautiful. Yeah, this Torah, this idea that Torah should be flowing through us, and that we're not meant to like contain it and keep it all to ourselves, but that actually the Torah should leak a little so that we can nourish the world and other people with it.
Hi, I'm Jory. I was also thinking about this whole, how should we feel about having a pointless job? And right, like, because the attitude of sort of like, hey, I'm getting paid, whatever, doesn't feel like a great attitude to have towards your job. But I think a lot of us feel like our job, like we don't see the purpose of what we're doing or feel like we're not being effective a lot of the time. And there's a balance between like pushing back, noticing that what you're doing isn't working and trying to change it, or going to your boss and saying, hey, do you know that this basket is leaking and should we fix this? Versus trusting that you're part of a bigger picture, or you're a cog in a big machine. And if you could see the big picture, you would understand the purpose of the things that you're doing more. I guess in this case, if your boss is God, you should probably trust that they know what they're doing. But I don't know, this feels like a genuine challenge of when should you persevere through things that you don't understand.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that mystery into, and also feeling like this isn't just about me and my learning, but that my learning is somehow this bigger part of a whole that I might not understand. Yeah, thank you. So let's move on to this last text, which is a poem written by Merle Feld. So modern poem. Merle is a beautiful, beautiful writer. This might be a poem that some folks know and hear and have seen before, but I wanted to bring it, one, because we're at Sinai. We just got the 10 Commandments today. How fun. And to bring it into conversation with these texts about what does it mean to learn Torah for what it is? What is there, actually? What are we remembering by learning? And what maybe are we not when we learn Torah? And where does that leave us? So this is We All Stood Together by Merle Feld for Rachel Adler. My brother and I were at Sinai. He kept a journal of what he saw, of what he heard, of what it all meant to him. I wish I had a record of what happened to me there. It seems like every time I want to write, I can't. I'm always holding a baby, one of my own or one for a friend, always holding a baby, so my hands are never free to write things down. And then as time passes, the particulars, the hard data, the who, what, when, where, why, slip away from me, and all I'm left with is the feeling. But feelings are just sounds, the vowel barking of a mute. My brother is so sure of what he heard. After all, he's got a record of it. Consonant after consonant after consonant. If we remembered it together, we could recreate holy time, sparks flying. I almost don't want to have a conversation about it because I love this poem so much, and I sort of just want to have it stand in its beauty. But I would love for us to think about, what are we not remembering when we learn Torah? What is the charge, I think, that Merle Feld is suggesting for us in this act of learning? And how does, I'm thinking also about the amazing speakers we had just now from A Land for All, of what are we doing when we learn from the history to envision what the future could be, or how can we retell our stories? And how do we remember, I think, is also something that they are asking in their work, and is key to how we can build next. So you said end by 2. We're gonna end by 2. I would love just if anyone has any thoughts, reactions. We won't go into small groups, but if anyone wants to say anything about this poem, yes. And greater if anyone has anything to say about how this poem is now speaking to you in light of what we just read, the other texts.
I'm just I'm gonna weave something in here from what's been going on all weekend. That when I come here, there's the words, there's the structure, and then there's the feeling. And I really think sometimes I come here for the feeling. And that's basically the Amen effect, basically. Just wanted to add that in, because that's a big piece of this. And I think that's what I wanted to say about this right at this moment. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Holding that feeling. It's not always words. Sometimes it's how it makes us feel.
Just something very simple. I love this poem, and I have read it many times before. And I just noticed today for the first time, there's no punctuation, there's no period at the end. And so I think that says so much. Sparks, all of this, sparks flying, let it continue. And that's Torah. And the process of our coming to it again and again with each other. May the sparks continue to fly. Thank you.
Amen, amen. And what was your name?
I'm sorry, Ruth.
Ruth. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah.
Hi, and I'm Pam. And it reminds me of something that just happened at work this week, where I'm training a new staff member on a task, and she's very meticulous, and she's very bright, she's very smart, but she was so feverishly taking down every single instruction that I was giving her verbatim. Technically, she followed the instructions, but she was so busy following the detail of it that she wasn't paying attention to the meaning of it, right? And the contextual cues around her and that sort of thing. And I think we do that a lot when we look at rules and we look at stories. All of us do. That we sometimes pay so much attention to just like the words that we're not seeing the meaning in the greater context. And I read that into this.
Thank you.
But you still got paid.
That's right. Hopefully you're not like the boss making someone do unfortunate tasks for no reason.
Hi. So, what? Oh, Candace. Hi. Hi again. I think, the rabbis have these like debates about like what exactly did the Israelites hear at Sinai, right? And some of them are like, Rambam's like they heard the whole thing, all 10 commandments, and some of them are like, no, they were like, no, we're going to die here again. And there's this beautiful teaching that what they heard was the Aleph of Anochi. The thing about Aleph is it takes on the sound of whatever vowel comes underneath it. And so what makes it, this poem makes me think that, and this is kind of the way I like to think of Revelation, is that you had a people assembled who each had their own experience of God in that moment, and we're now still trying to, like, the Torah captures as much as you can of an experience with the finitude of letters, but that we are still spending generations learning Torah again and again to try to recapture all of the disparate experiences of God in that moment. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Candace.
Hi, I'm Sura. I think this poem is very sad. It also speaks to what the speakers at lunch were speaking about before lunch. Because here, her brother has written it all down, and he's written down what he heard and what he felt, and he thinks that's what it is. And she didn't write anything down, and she feels in vowels, in soft tones, and he hears in consonants. And, then saying, well, if we remembered together, then maybe we could recreate holy time with sparks flying. I added the with. So I think that's like the speakers, the Palestinian, Israeli, Palestinians, trying to listen together rather than just to themselves in vowels and in consonants.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that. I think there is sadness in the poem of what maybe was lost, and what could have been if more voices had been in the room. And we still see that today, as they were talking about in Israel-Palestine. So thank you for bringing us back to that and connecting it. Let's take just one or two more comments, and we'll wrap up.
Hi, Leah. David, I just want to draw attention to the third party in this poem, which I keep returning to. We have siblings, one a male, one we don't know, and we have a baby. And I just keep returning to the image of the baby, the held baby. Perhaps my own, perhaps a friend's, but always holding a baby.
Thank you for lifting up that image. I wonder if that image also connects to what Ruth, had said about there's no period at the end of this poem, and there are babies, and so there's always something that's next that we don't know about. Last word.
Yeah, hi, my name's Jerry, and I was thinking about the idea of imagery, because we don't have visual imagery in Judaism, but what we do have is mental imagery that comes out of the Torah. And last night you spoke about an eagle. God is an eagle flying, and that image has stayed with me. And today there was the image of a tree that had been cut down, but there was a stump, and in that stump was the image of a holy seed. And those ideas just kind of linger in the mind for me.
Thank you. Yeah, bringing us full circle back to what are the things that we remember? Sometimes it's an image, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a thought. We don't always know. So we're going to close here. Thank you so much, everyone, for engaging in the ways that you did. I hope... I hope these texts challenge us, inspire us, help us feel like, we made some sparks fly in this room today with our learning. So yasher koach, everyone. If you want to, say hi after, and we'll close there. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Yasher koach, Rabbi Leah. We're gonna wrap up with Shir Hamalot, with the beginning of Birkat Hamazon, but I want to announce this is one of my favorite mitzvot I have the opportunity to fulfill. We found a ring. It looks to me like, I can't give away too much information about it, but it looks like a gold band, maybe a wedding ring. You have to tell me what carat it is. So check your fingers, and if you're missing a ring, come up to me after Birkat Hamazon. Shir Hamalot b'shuv Adon, Shivat Zion hayinu kechomim, az yimalech zechokinu, ushomenu